Hello, 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 hello. What's all this then? We are back in the glorious surroundings of Steventon, South Oxfordshire. As you can see, another day in paradise. Village Hall, that'll come into play later. Yeah, beautiful day. Back in Stivy. I knew we'd be back. I knew we'd be back. I knew we couldn't stay out of Stivy forever. We're just gonna get straight into it today. Where were we? Friday, August 13. That's it. Got me brew. There's a nice pipe. It's lovely that. It's lovely that. Yeah, right. So, without further ado, Chapter 2, Friday, August 13. Bear with me as usual. Do my best. Alright, Chapter 2, Friday, August the 13th. Butch Ransom delicately pushed the last 6 inches of pink material under the glinting steel foot of the sewing machine. Beneath the desk, his foot tentatively exerted pressure on the grey plastic pedal, maintaining a smooth and steady tempo. If he had been driving a car, it would have been moving at a consistent 10 miles an hour. Such was the sheep farmer's hard-learned caution. When he'd first plugged it in 6 weeks ago, he'd operated the pedal as if he was ram raiding an off-licence, the material speeding under his rampant foot in a tangled mess that left Butch in abject frustration at what then seemed to be an impossible task. He'd come a long way since that day. He smiled to himself, not quite believing his achievements. The eyes behind the wire-rimmed spectacles perched on the end of his nose shone in the evening sun as he gleefully watched pink silk unite with white lace. The sewing machine's small light bulb burnt like a miniature sun, illuminating the glistening sheen of sweat that coated the farmer's naked upper torso. Beads of sweat dripped from his forehead, down his nose and into his lap, pattering in dark blue droplets onto his cut-off denim shorts. He fed the last of the material through the machine, took his foot off the pedal, drew the cotton out from the bobbin and cut the slack on the machine's hooked incisor. He picked up the silk garment and tied off the cotton in a neat knot, snipping the straggly piece of leftover thread. He threw it down onto the desk with a delicate but heartfelt enthusiasm, turned off the taunting light of the sewing machine, punched 2 proud fists into the air, and in his thick Kiwi accent righteously proclaimed, "Fucking stitch that, you bastard." Yes, we're doing a Kiwi accent. Finn, his faithful sheepdog dozing in the basket behind him, looked up to see what had caused his master to break the almost 3 hours of solid silence. Butch straightened up in his small black office chair, emitting a lengthy groan as he did so, having been bent over the sewing machine nearly every night for the past 4 weeks. He planted his feet firmly on the carpet and pushed himself away from it, happily putting distance between himself and the once alien contraption that had first tormented him, then goaded him, then at last became compliant, before finally becoming his subordinate as he honed his mastery of the machine. His faded All Blacks rugby shirt hung on the back of his chair. He turned, perched his glasses on his head, and wiped the sweat from his brow with one of its sleeves. With a desperate enthusiasm, Butch rolled over to the corner of the room and switched the tower fan back on, groaning in pleasure as the breeze fluttered over the chiselled contours of his upper body. The heat wave they had all been experiencing lately seemed to come to life the day he started work on his new creation, as if to taunt him, and he would forever associate the creation of this dress with the oppressive sweatshop-like conditions of his unforgiving back bedroom. He figured he must have lost a few pounds in the process. All good though, as far as he was concerned. A leaner, meaner physique would do quite nicely for the already well-chiselled Kiwi. Looking proudly at the shimmering pink dress in the fading light of the summer evening, Butch Ransom was happy with his work, and even happier that he hadn't thrown the machine at the wall on day one. He couldn't wait to see Barbara down at the village hall later, to tell her the good news. He checked his watch, just gone 7:30. "Shit," he said, not knowing once again where the time had gone. "Gotta go, boy," he said to the dozing dog. Like a prisoner exuberant in his liberation, Butch leapt up from the office chair, grabbing the rugby shirt off its back. He left the fan on and the window open in the hope that by the time he got back, the place wouldn't feel like such a sweatbox. Finn followed him lazily as he exited the room and headed downstairs, the sheepdog's feet gently padding behind him as he descended. He picked up his white vest from off the banister and struggled to pull it on over his sweaty upper torso. After tying his shirt around his waist, he grabbed his keys and made for the front door. "Keep an eye on the place," he said, winking at Finn as he went out. Butch headed down the side of the house to where his bike stood. He checked the tyre pressure of both wheels, pushing his thumb down on the warm, dusty rubber. Satisfied, he clipped on a red backlight to the frame and wheeled the bike to the front garden gate. The meeting wouldn't take that long, he hoped. Usual pre-fete business to discuss, but after everything that had happened in the village yesterday, there could well be a bit more added drama than usual, so he took his lights just in case. He left his shirt tied round his waist, relishing the modest cool of the evening against his bare arms and legs. His legs had become increasingly exposed over recent weeks, following numerous shortenings to his cut-offs due to the exponential increase in temperature. These denims were now dangerously short, almost Daisy Dukes. Butch was in good shape for a man just past 40. You had to be to do his type of work, and he took pride in maintaining his physique. Plus the women loved it. Butch hoped there'd be a few down at the meeting later to justify his minimalist wardrobe selection. Heading away from his picturesque farm standing on Stevenson's southwestern edge, home to himself, his dog Finn, and just over 100 sheep, Butch built up steady speed on his mountain bike, the chains squeaking and the gears clattering as he increased his effort, youthfully jumping the speed bumps that ran across the faded grey tarmac of the road. He passed the church on his left as he came into the village, slowing slightly and standing up on his pedals. Butch craned his neck to get a better view of the damage inflicted on the old building's rear stained glass window. In the fading light of early evening, Butch could still just about make out the hole that seemed to have caught our Lord and Saviour squarely in the groin. The causeway came into view on his right. The ancient raised walkway was a true historical feature of the village, serving as its mile-long cobbled spine, dissecting the full length of the village from the church in the southwest to the far end of the village green in the northeast. Butch cycled parallel to the luscious green canopy of horse chestnuts that lined its length. It felt as if the big lung-like trees were breathing sweet, cool oxygen directly onto his muscular frame. As he approached the railway line, Butch was glad to see that the tall red and white barriers of the level crossing were in their raised position, and the red eyes of the warning lights that stood either side of the road were dark and inactive. All was quiet, unlike yesterday, he thought, recalling the drama of the previous day. Butch crested the modest incline that took him up and over the railway, theatrically blowing kisses at his friend Dan Fowler up in the signal box. Fowler waved back, at first not realising who it was. When he saw it was Butch, his hand immediately curled around an invisible penis, which he then began to shake vigorously. Like the church, the signal box had suffered similar damage, as Fowler's DIY cardboard window attested to. Butch pressed on, still running parallel with the causeway, approaching the give-way junction with St Michael's School on his left and the Crafty Digit pub, unusually quiet for this time on a Friday night, on his right. Butch veered right, the causeway now on his left, the smell of the dense green foliage mixed with the smell of fried food and warm beer coming from the pub were intoxicating, and Butch inhaled it all deep into his lungs as he pedalled on towards the village hall in the quiet stillness of the summer evening. The peace and quiet was not to last for much longer, however. As if someone was slowly turning a volume control up, the voices of four men looming in front grew louder. The raucous sound of one man in particular pierced the stillness of the night, sounding more like the incessant cawing of the crows that could often be heard in the trees beside him. A murder of crows, that was the collective term for a group of crows, wasn't it? Cool term, that, Butch thought. What did you call this lot then? Butch thought he knew. A bunch of pissheads, that's what, he said to himself with a smile. They were in fact Morris dancers, and there were four of them. Butch was on first name terms with them all, as he was with most people in the village. He could make out the doddery outline of Colin Blunsdon, the man accounting for about 80% of the noise currently being made by the group. He could see Colin reaching for some much needed stability as he slipped on the curb, nearly going arse over head, close to taking lead dancer Terence Russell and the blue washing bag that Terence was carrying with him. Beside them were fellow dancers Bob Dobson and Jerry Heyman. As Butch drew closer, he could hear Terence and Colin squabbling. He hung back, grinning stealthily, listening to their exchange. "Colin, please, try and get a hold of yourself," Terence said, almost pleadingly, shaking his head. "You were meant to be giving it a rest today, remember? What's everyone going to think when they see you turning up like this? And more importantly, what will they think of us? It's a big day for us tomorrow, remember? Hometown show? Or have you forgotten that? It was well in your booze-addled brain. Your drinking's got worse, I'm telling you. That money isn't going to last forever, you know." "It's my money and I'll do what I want with it, all right," Blunsdon answered back, teetering on the edge of the curb again. "You're going on like a bloody old woman, Terence. I need a drink to calm my nerves after what that little Blouse bastard done to my shed. Drank all my booze, ate all my pissing grub, and he smashed all my boys to bollocks." "They never hurt nobody, Terence. That bloody bastard vandal," he spat. "It wasn't just your shed that got vandalised though, was it?" Terence said. "My patch came off far worse, I think you'll find. Most of this year's veg is going to be ruined, that's for sure." "You're just a squatter down there, Terence, don't you go forgetting that," Colin said. "Good job I'm so bloody nice. Soon you stop blubbing and piss off back home, the better as far as I'm concerned, because I don't need no bloody babysitter." "Evening, chaps," Butch said, before an open-mouthed Terence could respond to Colin's hostility. Butch breaking cover and swerving towards the ambling foursome, making Colin jump in the process. "Lovely evening for it." "Well, well, well, if it isn't the man who caught the Ripper," Terence said. "What can I say? Right place, right time. Someone's got to be around to save the day, eh? I trust we are all well and looking forward to tomorrow." "Oh, absolutely, Butch," Terence beamed. "Me and the boys have been practicing hard for this one." He lowered his tone, drawing Butch a little closer. "Just got to try and keep certain members of the team away from the bar, if you know what I mean," he said, cocking a thumb towards Colin and his trusty drinking companion Bob Dobson, ambling beside him. "Been letting the side down a bit lately, haven't they, Jerry?" Terence said, addressing the tanned middle-aged man walking beside him. "They have a bit, Chief, yeah. You expect a bit more professionalism, don't you? Especially for a poor performance like tomorrow. I mean, it's a big occasion tomorrow, isn't it? I know I'm excited." "And you can shut up and all, Jerry, you big bloody teacher's pet," Colin said. "You only been with us for 5 minutes and suddenly you think you're a bloody big shot. You're an apple polisher, that's all you are." "Colin, you could do a lot worse than take a leaf out of Jerry's book," Terence said. "He may be new, but at least he shows some enthusiasm, a bit of drive and passion, which is more than could be said for you two at the moment. I don't have to go dragging him out of the pub every practice now, do I?" "Bloody teacher's pet," Colin mumbled. "Probably can't handle his drink anyway." "These two been liquidising their assets again, have they?" Butch said, shaking his head at Colin and Bob. "Naughty, naughty." "You can shut up and all, you big sod," Colin mumbled derisively. "That redundancy money will be the death of them two, Butch, I'm sure of it. Ever since that brewery let them go, I can hardly keep them out of the digit." Terence once again lowered his voice to a conspiratorial tone. "I still don't think it's quite sunk in with Bob there. He's hardly said a word since they gave him the bullet. Over 2 months now, barely said a word. Pint, that's about all I've heard him say. Thank God he can still dance. That's all I can say. At least he hasn't been robbed of that," Terence said. "It's just like he's in shock or something. I think that job meant a lot more to him than we might have thought." "He's happy enough," Colin said boisterously, overhearing the conversation. "Gives us a bit of time to enjoy the finer things in life, doesn't it, Bob?" he said, patting him repeatedly on the back. Bob just stared blankly back at him as they carried on walking towards the hall. "Bloody hell, Butch," Colin said. "You sure am sure it's bloody short enough." Everybody except Bob Dobson burst out laughing at Colin's slurred attempt. "I beg your pardon, Colin. Perhaps we can have that in English," Butch said. "Your bloody shorts," he said. "You'll have a bollock fallout if you ain't careful." Butch grinned. "You wish, you dirty pervert. Anyway, I'll see you all down there," Butch said, pedalling back on himself, rounding in on the awesome foursome. He raised his arm on approach, as if preparing to deliver an underarm tennis serve. With perfect timing, Colin Blunsden again stumbled from the path. "And no more drinking, you naughty boy," Butch said, as the flat of his hand connected with the elderly dancer's backside. "Bloody Aussie twat," Colin yelled in high-pitched tones, clutching at his buttocks as Butch disappeared into the distance. "How many times do I have to tell you, Cole?" Ransom called out over his shoulder, his voice loud and strong in the stillness of the early evening. "I'm a bloody Kiwi." Butch pressed on, crossing the high street and veering into the village hall car park, taking in the landscape of the large village green as he dismounted. The vibrancy of the grass was subdued by dusk's failing light. In complete contrast to how it would look tomorrow, the green was eerily quiet. Wheeling his bike towards the side of the village hall, Butch made a quick inventory of the vehicles in the car park, his attention chiefly drawn to the large three-wheeled trike belonging to Reverend Bowen, parked between a very flash-looking red and white Honda Fireblade and the luminously striped police Ford Transit van belonging to Sergeant Frisk. As he leant his bike up against the wall, locking it to one of the three metallic bike rings, he heard the trill of a bell and the call of a familiar voice. "Cooey," the voice said, getting closer. "Good evening, my lovely leaping New Zealand lamb." Smiling as he pocketed his bike key and unable to prevent the pride he felt for his textile achievements bursting forth, Butch gleefully responded, beaming at his sewing guru. "Guess what I finished, Barb?" "You did it? Finished?" Barbara Ricks said, surprised. "Oh, sweetheart, I am glad. I knew you could do it, my love. I knew you wouldn't give up on it. Really, well done," she said, dismounting her bike and giving Butch a short, sharp embrace. "I told you you'd get the hang of it in the end, didn't I?" she said with genuine pleasure. "Oh, I can't wait to see it." Ransom's smile remained. "Oh, you will, Barb, my sweet, you will." "Did they come and replace your window yet?" he asked, changing the subject to a far less celebratory topic. "Yes, eventually, but not until this afternoon," she said with more than a hint of displeasure, marring her usual chirpy nature. "Not yesterday afternoon like they first thought, or this morning at the latest like they promised," she said, shaking her head of short auburn hair. "Still, at least it's all done now, and the new one really does look lovely. And it's double glazed," she said with enthusiastic reassurance, "so it's a lot stronger and harder to break. I just need to get the shop sign printed on the inside of it, and it will be as good as new," she beamed. "Fabsolutely babulous," Butch said, at the same time congratulating her on her new window and quoting the quirky name of Barbara Ricks's wool and fabric shop. "Thank you again for all your help yesterday, Butch," she said, leaning her own push bike up against the wall. "It was really lovely of you to help me. Let's just hope things can settle down a bit now." "Wouldn't bet on it, Barb," Butch replied robustly, nodding towards the collection of vehicles parked up outside the hall. "But we'll see, eh? Stivvy's most wanted is safely under lock and key down the road, thanks to you," she said. "Right place, right time," Butch said. "Be interesting what they've got to say about young Douglas's recent behaviour tonight, though, eh? Pushed his luck a little too far this time, I'd say. I mean, smashing a few windows is one thing, but what he did to Daisy and then to Hilda's dog, well, that's another level, eh? No wonder they're out in force tonight. I shouldn't think Pitra and the good Reverend are going to be feeling in a very merciful mood after what Douglas put them through, and with the strong arm of the law in attendance," Butch said, nodding towards the police van. "I think that shows they must be taking it pretty seriously." Butch smiled and clapped his hands, rubbing them together. "So it should make for a good show, eh?" he said. Barbara Ricks did not return his smile, only shook her head in dismay. "I don't think it's something to celebrate, Butch," she said, picking up a textile bag from her bike's front basket. "And still no sign of Mum?" "Not that I know of," Butch said. "All quiet down at Shea Blouse." Barbara rifled through her bag, frowning. "Bugger my old rags, I've forgotten my lock," she said, immediately raising her hand to her mouth in a belated attempt at self-censorship. "Well, I have buggered a few old bags in my time, Barb," Butch said breezily, "but I'll be damned if I'm going to start doing it in the car park." Barbara slapped him playfully on the arm. "I'm telling Hilda about that one," she said. I bet she's come out with far worse than that herself over the past couple of days, Butch said, raising his eyebrow. I bet she even dropped the C word a couple of times during all yesterday's excitement, Butch said. Barbara's eyes widened in shock at Ransom's suggestions. Butch, don't you dare say that word in my presence. Ka, he teased, causing Barbara to whack him on the arm again with her bag. Butch, I'm warning you, she said slowly. Come on, let's get inside, he said, winking and smiling cheekily. I'll lock your bike up to mine. There we go. Chapter 2, done and dusted. Stay tuned for more. Chapter 3, coming soon. Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Build it up a bit. Build it up a bit. Tell your friends. Tell your enemies. If you had as many subscribers as I've got enemies, you'd be sorted, bruv. Anyway, that's enough of that for today. We will be back sometime soon. Goodbye. God bless. Oh God, yeah, where's button? Yeah. Oh, we're turning it off now. Yeah, we're done here, aren't we? Yeah, see you then.